The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Monday, August 31st, 2020. Thanks so much for joining me. I want to begin with a clip from CNN. And it is a clip of a journalist discussing the nature of Facebook as it pertains to conservatism. And in this clip, he makes it clear that conservatives all but own the space on Facebook. And when you consider the size of Facebook, this is not something to scoff at or to sneeze away. Facebook is like an alternate dimension where conservatives are able to spread their propaganda almost completely unchallenged. And as soon as I play this clip, I want to talk about something that dawned on me yesterday. It's funny, like yesterday morning when I went and I started scrolling through some of the top pages on Facebook for progressives, liberals, Democrats, like Occupy Democrats, like, whatever. There's a whole bunch of them. I saw that most of their reach is comparable to mine. That should alarm everybody because on Facebook, I've only got 115,000 followers. And so for me to get about as much reach on Facebook as Occupy Democrats that has like 7 million followers, when a random no-name conservative that you probably never heard of probably would have 1 million to 2 million followers, but they have almost just unimaginable reach. I mean, every post goes viral. Every video gets 20 million views. Every single meme gets 10,000 shares, 20,000 shares. And these are just the no-name people, not to mention people like Donald Trump, Ben Shapiro, some of the top names, and Candace Owens, for God's sake. And why does this matter? Well, if you're concerned about the election, clearly it matters because of just the reach, the unbelievable reach, the ability to create narratives that exist completely outside of the mainstream media, but also exist outside of Twitter. Most of the battles that go on politically with people who are involved in politics, like anywhere from organizers to media personalities to staffers to people who are just inside of the political hemisphere, so to speak, that happens on Twitter, but they are completely unaware of the extent to which conservatism dominates Facebook. All right, so that's the backdrop. Let's take a listen to this clip from CNN.
Well, what have you found, Kevin, on Facebook recently?
Well, I've been looking closely at Facebook data for the past several years, and in the past few months, it's amazing how dominant the Facebook sort of right wing has become, the pro-Trump part of Facebook. And I pulled a bunch of numbers on this that are in a column I wrote this week about what if Facebook is the silent majority that Trump has been talking about. And it's amazing how little we, the people who sort of work in the mainstream media, don't understand about what's going on Facebook. It's a completely parallel universe in which, the Trump's response to COVID-19 has been fast and effective, in which these riots in Portland and other cities are the biggest news story in the world, in which these sort of culture war controversies become much bigger than anything that happened at the RNC or the DNC, frankly. I just think we have very little sense of what's happening there. And so I wanted to dive in and investigate it. And I was kind of shocked by what I found.
Okay, that was the voice of Kevin Roose. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. And he followed up with a tweet. He said he didn't have time to list them all, but I pulled together some data for this segment. In August, Facebook interactions, CNN had 21 million. New York Times had 8 million. Ben Shapiro had 55 million. If you don't know who Ben Shapiro is, he is the quote unquote cool kids philosopher who has billionaires backing him, who invests millions of dollars every month to promote him on Facebook. And he is he literally is the chief propagandist for the right. He is the leading voice in right-wing propaganda. 55, he had almost more than double the interactions of CNN and the New York Times. In August, Facebook video views. CNN had 73 million. New York Times had 12 million. The Hodge twins, those are the no-name conservative YouTubers who also made it big on Facebook, 84 million views. And if you want to add something on top of that, they probably made it easily $100,000 that month off of their Facebook and YouTube views. 73 million for CNN, 12 million for the New York Times, and the Hodge twins got 84 million. Again, no-name conservatives who have more reach than not only mainstream media institutions, but also left-leaning Facebook pages. Some of the pages everybody gets excited over. Some of that, like Occupy Democrats, they're a huge page, but their reach is nothing compared to what's going on with conservatives. August, Facebook shares, just shares alone. CNN, 2.2 million. New York Times, 800,000. Dan Bongino, whatever his name is from Fox News, 5.6 million. Again, in this case, more than twice as many as CNN and the New York Times. And I guarantee you more than twice as many as most other pages that are left-leaning. The issue is that we are vastly underfunded and outgunned. I do think that there's a substantive difference. There's like a qualitative difference that goes in addition to the quantitative difference, but I'll get to that in a second. The number one thing is we are vastly outfunded. There's actually three parts to this. Let me break it down. I want to start with the one that is the most serious is the fact that Facebook capitulates to conservatives on a regular basis. Facebook capitulates to the pressure that comes from right wingers on Facebook. They constantly give in to their demands. It is a situation where right wing propaganda will go completely unabated, unscathed, without any challenge, and simple clickbait on the left will get flagged and taken down. There is no question. But to add insult to injury, they go one step further. Not only will they take the clickbait from the left down and leave the clickbait and the all outright lies from the right up, the perception is that there is an assault against conservative media by Facebook. There's an assault on conservative media by Facebook. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? So they have the best of both worlds. Conservatives have the best of both worlds in this, is that number one, they get their reach is completely untouched. The algorithm is tuned to put them in front of as many faces as possible. Because behind the scenes, right-wing lobbyists, right-wing promoters, and billionaires are constantly pounding Facebook, pushing the conservative agenda, and they push it so hard that number two, they still go out into the mainstream media and the public relations firms and make sure that everyone has the perception that conservative media is under attack by social media giants. They have the advantage on social media, but they make you feel as though they are disadvantaged and that they are taken advantage of. So that's number one. Number two, we're just vastly outfunded. Conservatives have unlimited amounts of money to pour into these platforms, and they have channels, they have funnels, right? They have a funnel that they could take a no-name conservative who just happens to say something really slick one day, and they put $1 million behind them, and they develop this entire ecosystem around them, and all of a sudden they are a conservative superstar on social media, and they replicate that model over and over and over again merely because they have the ability to outspend us 10 to 1, 100 to 1. We do not have as many resources on the left as the right has invested in social media. But number three, I think that there is a qualitative difference. I truly believe that there is a qualitative difference in the content that's being put out. Not that their content is better. No, it's that their content is 100% tuned to appeal to their base. Their content is 100% tuned to give their base exactly what they want. Not left-leaning outlets. Left-leaning outlets, I said this in my special episode on Friday, like left-leaning media responds. It responds to conservative media. Left-leaning clickbait and left-leaning Facebook pages, they respond to the madness that we get from conservatives. but they're not ever really talking to their own base. In fact, most of these outlets really just ignore the base and don't talk about the issues that we care about the most. Here's the substantive difference and qualitative difference you cannot ignore. The base of the conservative movement wants that bigotry. They want that hatred. They want that red meat. They want that xenophobia. They want that pro-police brutality. They love to give excuses every time a police officer kills a black man. And so as long as they have media outlets that gives them those excuses that they could use on social media, they're going to keep eating it up. On the left, we're not talking about the issues that matter to us the most, like healthcare, Medicare for all. We're not talking about the 45 million people who are unemployed, except to the extent that we blame it on Donald Trump. We're not talking about actual solutions that people really are concerned about. Yeah, we'll share a police brutality video, but how many times will we actually cut to the core of it and speak about the white supremacist structure that empowers all of this? See, the difference is the conservatives appeal to their base, which is a bigoted Nazi fascistic base. Democrats and these Democrat-leaning pages, they do not appeal to our base, even though their base is fighting for health care, Medicare for all, fighting against the police state, fighting to make sure that every single person has a house, somewhere to live, fighting to make sure that everyone has food to eat, fighting to make sure that everyone has a decent modicum of living. And this is not being nurtured on the left. So I know that it's not all, it's not just the qualitative difference. There is a quantitative difference. There is a difference in the amount of money that we pour into it that we simply don't have on the left. It is the fact that Facebook is biased against left-leaning outlets, despite the perception that Facebook is biased against conservative outlets. That's clearly not true based on the data. But it's all the above. It's also the fact that these conservative outlets feed their base, which is rooted in bigotry, white supremacy, and xenophobia. Whereas Democratic-leaning pages don't feed their base, who's simply fighting for a better life and existence for everyone. Okay, let's talk about what's going on in Portland and Kenosha. A lot has happened and transpired over the weekend. First things first, last week we covered the Kenosha shootings committed by Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old who drove to Kenosha, about a 40-minute drive. His mother took him, and he ended up shooting three protesters, killing three. That's number one. And I want to make sure that everyone is clear the substantive difference here. Kyle got nothing but love and support, adoration, veneration, and about $300,000 raised for him in his legal defense fund. Over the weekend, last night, or rather the night before, a Donald Trump supporter who was engaged in an altercation got killed. And when I woke up this morning, it was trending all over Twitter that this was an act of Antifa, that's something that needed to be condemned, something that needed to be condemned by Joe Biden, needed to be condemned by everybody. And this proves that the left is violent, that the left is the problem, right? This proves that there's violence from the left and nowhere else. And Democrats started positioning themselves to condemn it. Joe Biden condemned it. He said, I condemn violence from the left and the right. Now I'm waiting on Donald Trump to do the same. Donald Trump is not going to do the same. Let me cut to the point. The point is not about being genuine in your condemnation of all types of violence. The point is that the Republicans and conservatives in this country have demonstrated that they will have you chasing civility while their supporters are out here murdering our protesters and our supporters with impunity. Not a single Republican has brought themselves to condemn the murders committed by a Donald Trump supporter who was on the front row of his campaign event in January wearing a Make America Great Again hat. I called it. I knew he was going to be a Trump supporter. Not a single Republican, from the president down to the local dog catcher, has condemned this murder. In fact, the exact opposite has happened. They have venerated this man to be some type of folk hero. Ann Coulter said that he should be president president of the United States. They've raised $300,000 for him. Some people have gotten tattoos of this kid on their body. And now they want us to pause and be upset about the murder and condemn the murder of one of Donald Trump's supporters. Donald Trump himself tweeted out condolences, rest in peace to his supporter that was killed. Do you see the qualitative, the substantive difference here? Democrats will always be chasing civility while conservatives are constantly and forever moving us closer and closer to the point where they can kill us with impunity and we can't so much as protest. They literally equate our protest against the police state to be as evil and vile as their supporters murder. No. Let me correct myself. More evil and more vile and more reprehensible than their supporters killing us. They did not bat an eye. They did not flinch. They did not care when Kyle Rittenhouse killed 2 people. And this is proof evident that not all lives matter to them. The only lives that matter to conservatives are the lives of their friends and their family members and their supporters. And nope. Got to correct myself, because they'll tell their family members to go to hell if they don't support Donald Trump. So the only lives that matter to Trump supporters are Trump supporters. And they will continuously have you chasing your tail, chasing after the specter of civility. Meanwhile, they are gunning us down in the damn streets. So obviously, the obvious takeaway is simple. It is this: you will not beat Donald Trump trying to be civil. You will not beat Donald Trump trying to be civil, trying to show that you are the better human being. He doesn't care about that. He sees that as weakness. He weaponizes that against you. We will not beat back this conservative movement by trying to be civil, because they don't care about your civility. They will weaponize your civility against you. They will gun you down in the street and have you apologizing. This is literally where we are this week. They have gunned down 2 Black Lives Matter protesters, and then they want us to apologize for someone who got killed last night because he was out there with the intentions of being an aggressor. They will literally gun us down and make us apologize. We cannot bow or bend or break or capitulate to these fascists. We cannot. And if you are afraid of participating at that level, then you're not qualified for what's happening right now. We can no longer afford politicians or spokespeople, media personalities who continuously equivocate. We cannot afford personalities, politicians, or any other type of people who will continuously try to appeal to the better nature in these monsters. And if at this point you cannot see clear-eyed that these people are monsters, that they revel in our misery, that while they try to draw, and if you are that type of liberal who draws an equivalence between what they are doing, do I have to go down the litany of things that they are doing to literally harm every marginalized group in this country? But if you are the type of liberal who equates what they are doing, their bigotry, their xenophobia, their war crimes, their crimes against humanity, their civil rights violations, their constitutional violations, the criminality of this president, if you are the type of individual that equates that to those of us who are fighting for Medicare for all, those of us who are fighting against the police state, we're simply trying to tell them to stop killing us, and it's certainly not let them kill us with impunity. If you draw that equivalence, then you are exactly the type of useful idiot that Donald Trump needs to continue doing what he's doing, which is patently clear. The president of the United States has gotten into hyperdrive with his appeal to his base, to the dog whistles, to the outright racism, because he understands that is his pathway back into the White House, because he can have his base getting everything that they ever dreamed of, which is bigotry, which is fascism, which is constitutional violations of our rights, while making sure that we can't even call them out for their own violations. He knows that he can allow his supporters to get away with everything while we are apologizing for everything that they've done to us. If that is a type of liberal and person that you are not equipped to fight the political fights that we have going on right now. We have to draw the line right here, right now, and not let them get 1 inch further.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
All right, let's go. Let's talk about this resurgence of the argument for herd immunity. The White House has hired a new advisor, and this advisor is suggesting that we look at Sweden's model for herd immunity. And that's I want to just kind of wrap this real quick in the last conversation. When I talk about the substantive and the qualitative differences between the two bases, the conservative base, they thrive on bigotry, xenophobia, hatred, and racism. But they also thrive on the idea that our protest against police violence against Black lives is not as noble or worthy as their protest to not have to wear a damn mask during a global pandemic. They feel that the greatest calling of their lives is to oppose the mask mandate. And oh, by the way, their base believes that COVID-19 is a hoax. The qualitative, the very substantive difference between the two bases. Whereas our base, you're going to try to find us fighting for universal basic income, Medicare for all, universal housing, things that actually help people's lives instead of things that actually destroy people's lives. And here we are, the president of the United States, understanding full well that he has the ability to feed his base like nothing we've ever seen before. He has hired an an advisor on the pandemic that is Scott Atlas. Scott Atlas is his name, who is suggesting that the United States employ a herd immunity plan for this vaccine, for this pandemic. Citing Sweden, who had higher death rates than any other nation in its immediate proximity. Sweden, whose economy did worse because they attempted herd immunity and it was an abysmal failure. Never mind the fact that if we try that in a country that has a population of 330 million people and we have a death rate of 1%, we're talking about somewhere between 2 to 3 million people dying of COVID-19. So we are literally at the point in American history where the president of the United States has brought on an advisor to push the idea of herd immunity, which can kill between 2 and 3 million more Americans. Also, never mind the fact that we don't even know if the antibodies or our immune system, what we build up in response to COVID-19, actually last. Simply put, some people have gotten reinfected, and we're not sure whether or not that was a resurgence of the same virus, right? It subsided and came back, or they didn't get immunity from it and they caught it again from somebody else. We don't know that yet. But what we do know is that the president of the United States is perfectly fine floating this idea, saying, let's go for it. He's not saying it directly. He's brought in an advisor to say it. This is the sociopathy of this administration. And I cannot stress enough that if there was no other reason that Donald Trump needed to go, under no circumstance, no uncertain circumstances, Donald Trump needed to go based on his performance on COVID-19 alone. The fact that 180,000 people are dead. The fact that 45 million people have lost their jobs because instead of us doing what was necessary to ensure that we minimize the deaths, that we maximize the amount of benefit that Americans could get from the federal government to sustain this economy, they let people die and they gave money to billionaires and corporations, but gave American people $1,200. If there was no other reason to get rid of Donald Trump, it is the fact that he already presided over 180,000 deaths and now is considering 2 to 3 million more. I don't care if we replace him with Rumpelstiltskin. Donald Trump has to go.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. At this point in every single episode, I'd like to take a minute to thank the people who make the show possible, our patrons. Very special welcome to Brian Brown, Danielle Foz, Desiree Marcel Simmons, LaShonda Williams, H-Dub, Bruce Cullum, Jessica Shorts, David Metler, Christine Meyer. Everybody just pop your... Katrina Blackley, Jacob Robinson, presenting jury, Andrew Pins, Amy, Sebastian Cox, Michael Gowen, Zachary Cooney, Will Dobson, Michael Smith, Raymond McCabe, Clayton Hopkins, and Adriana Manana. I hope I got that right. You too can become a part of this Patreon family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, twice the content, none of the commercial interruptions, and you give me the ability to speak truth to power, whether the powerful like it or not.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I want to just deal with this COVID-19 just a little bit more. I'm going to put couple of tweets on your screen. The first one is from, I guess, the friends and family of Herman Cain. There was a tweet from Herman Cain's account that they've since deleted, obviously, but once I put it on your screen and once I read it for you who listen to the podcast, you'll understand why. At the Herman Cain tweeted this morning, it looks like the virus is not as deadly as the mainstream media first made it out to be. Bruh. Herman Cain died of COVID-19 just a few weeks ago. Herman Cain is a part of the number of people who died in the second wave, and they deleted that, and they try to make it better by tweeting about the second wave. The summer wave was not as bad as we thought. Still, your boss, your husband, whoever's running this account died from COVID-19 in the second wave of the summer. These people are absolutely sociopaths. They don't even give a shit about Herman Cain. Like, they don't have the decency enough to say, I'm going to sit this one out. They don't have the decency enough to say, you know what? It might not be in our best interest to talk about COVID-19 and the deadliness of it because our boss, our loved one died of COVID-19. Nope. They don't have that much decency. It is more important to them to push their political agenda, which, by the way, is an agenda that will get people killed, which, by the way, serves no other purpose whatsoever than to try to make some frivolous appeals about the economy or for the economy, when the fact of the matter is even if the economy was wide open right now, people would not go out because we see for ourselves how deadly it is. And you would think that if your boss and your loved one died from COVID-19, then you yourself would basically sit this one out. But no, they would not sit it out. You know why? Because their political agenda is even more important than the lives of their loved ones. Can I repeat that again for the people in the balcony? Conservatives' political agendas are more important than the life and the safety of even their loved ones. And if they don't give a damn about their family members, what makes you think they give a damn about any of us? Which is all the more reason every single one of them have to be voted out of office. Patrons, stay tuned. Full show for you coming up after this music. Everyone else, if you want access to the full show, go to patreon.com/The BPD Show. Twice the content, none of the commercials. And if not, I will see you next time. Thank you for being a beautiful audience, everybody.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com facebook.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.